Yeah.
And don't you just love Rivalry Week? Fields were rushed, streaks were snapped, divisions were clinched, trophies were claimed, hearts were broken, but most importantly, chaos ensued. Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, bringing you some of the best college football news, predictions, and analysis. Today, recapping the madness that was the final weekend of the regular season in college football. We knew it was rivalry week. We knew it was one of the best times of the year, one of the best weeks of the year, and it did not disappoint. So we're going to jump right in to some of the biggest games and the biggest moments from this final weekend of college football. Before we jump into that, we'll take a look at our big board here. Another successful week for us in the final weekend. 32-9 straight up. That's 78%. Obviously 2% better than our benchmark. 398 and 120 on the year, so 76.8%. So practically a whole percentage point above where we wanted to be. Or if you've been following us for a while, you know we want to finish at 76%. This finishes us about 77% if you round up. We will have a yearly recap video coming out in a few weeks, but we here at the Gridiron Expert like to be precise. So we're going to go back through every single week and make sure we did not make a mistake on any of our records. And we, of course, are going to wait until the conclusion of the Army-Navy game, because that game will go on our official record before we come on here for our 2019 yearly recap when it comes to our preseason predictions. Against the spread, we went 4-6, and are we pleased with that? Absolutely not. But thank you, Indiana, for blowing a 28-10 lead and winning by just 3 in double overtime instead of covering the 6.5 you were favored by. Thank you to Alabama, a team we will address here in a little bit, for blowing that game to Auburn. Thank you for Oklahoma State for unable to score points against Oklahoma, and many of the other teams that could have at least given us a 60% week. But so it goes. That is the beauty of college football. That is the frustrating thing about college football. When you bet against the spread, you're taking those risks. We know that. 4-6, 78, 63, and 1 against the spread on the year, 55.3%. Still a very, very good mark through the season. And keep in mind, we still have 10 conference championship games to do, and we have every single bowl game. So this record will get a lot better by the end of this college football season. So now that the stats are out of the way, now that this housekeeping is taken care of, let's start with what happened on Thanksgiving night, where Ole Miss became the first team to literally piss a game away by losing 21-20 to their rival Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl. If you watched that game after your hearts and stomachs were filled with turkey and dressing and pumpkin pie, you saw where Elijah Moore scored the potential game-tying touchdown in the biggest game of the year for Ole Miss and Mississippi State. And after he scored that touchdown, proceeded to go to the back of the end zone, hike up that leg, and pretend to pee like a dog in the end zone in Starkville. That, of course, brought on a 15-yard penalty, which moved the extra point way back. Luke Logan missed that extra point, and Mississippi State escaped with a 1-point victory that sends them bowling and sends Ole Miss to 4-8, which is the exact record we predict the Rebels to go way back in the summer. And I hate this more than anything. I had no allegiance in this game whatsoever, but I hate this more for Luke Logan and those Ole Miss seniors, because Elijah Moore, after watching this entire game, after watching what happened after the game, did not seem to care about his actions. He did not seem to care one bit that he cost his team the game. Well, a guy like Luke Logan is going to dwell on this game more than Elijah Moore probably has. We'll continue to think about this game because he ended Ole Miss's season with a missed extra point that really should not and was not his fault. More than likely, he would have made that point after had Elijah Moore not invoked that penalty. Maybe Ole Miss would have lost in overtime. We do not know. But Luke Logan will dwell on that longer than Elijah Moore will. He cost the Rebels that game, not the kicker. The final Friday night, we're going to move on a day after that, so hopefully if you got done with Black Friday shopping early and you got back in time to watch Virginia snap their 15-game losing streak to Virginia Tech, winning that game 39-30. And the Cavaliers are on to the ACC title game to take on Clemson. Bryce Perkins was beast mode in this game. 475 total yards, and the defense, as we predicted, came up clutch with a final stop, recovering that fumble in the end zone to get up by 9 points and seal the deal against Justin Fuente, Bud Foster, and the Virginia Tech Hokies, a game where, of course, as we know, the winner won the ACC Coastal. The Cavaliers got the best of that, and what better way to end that 15-game losing streak to your bitter rivals than to end it and then go to the ACC title game. So a phenomenal, phenomenal game on Friday. Right after that, you had Memphis defeating Cincinnati at the Liberty Bowl to move to 11-1 and set up a rematch against the Bearcats in the American Athletic Conference title game. That, of course, coming next week. Now, that game will be big. That game will have a lot of stock, a lot of weight in that game. But unlike what we just saw this past weekend, it's going to be a bigger game for Memphis because, as we all know, the highest ranked Group of 5 conference champion goes to a New Year's Six bowl game. Memphis is going to be the highest ranked Group of 5 team going into conference championship weekend. If they win that game against Cincinnati in the conference championship, once again being played at Memphis, then the Tigers will go to a New Year's Six bowl game. If Cincinnati wins, I do not think a 2-loss Bearcats team will get in, and that opens the door for someone like Appalachian State or Boise State. So big implications coming next week between the Bearcats and the Tigers, but Memphis getting the best of them in the regular season matchup, which might end up being bigger than the conference championship. All right, now we move on to Saturday. That's where the majority of the big games were, and of course we cannot start talking about Saturday before talking about the game. The game, not any game, the game between Michigan and Ohio State. And guys, this was a game that many people thought Ohio State might lose or might be fairly close. We thought it was going to be relatively close. I said I'd be surprised if Ohio State won this game by more than 2 touchdowns. I thought the Buckeyes would win. I didn't think they'd win by more than 3 possessions, and I was wrong. They won 56-27. I don't know what it is about Michigan, but they just can't seem to get over the hump with their biggest rival. They've lost 8 straight now, 5 straight under Jim Harbaugh. He has yet to beat the Buckeyes. And of course, when you coach at Ohio State or Michigan, this is the game you need to win. Maybe not as consistently as Ohio State has done it 8 straight years, but you need to win it at least once. And Michigan has been able to do that. We mentioned that the key in this game for Michigan, if they wanted any chance to win, was to shut down J.K. Dobbins. This game was being played in Ann Arbor. Michigan had home field advantage. Their offense was clicking on all cylinders, better than we saw earlier this season. And we said that J.K. Dobbins showed up in big games against teams like Wisconsin, Michigan State, or Penn State. And now you look at this, 211 yards and 4 touchdowns from J.K. Dobbins, his best game yet this season. He saved the best for last, showed up in yet another big game and carried the Buckeyes. Can he continue it in the Big Ten Championship? But when you look at this game here, guys, Michigan was only down 28-16 at half, but I will tell you where the game ended. The game did not end at halftime when they were down 12. The game did not end when Michigan found themselves down 35-16. The game ended with 6.5 minutes left in the second quarter, while Michigan was trailing 21-13. They fumbled at the Ohio State 12-yard line. The offense was looking good, guys. They struck first, got up 6-0, missed that extra point, no big deal. But the game ended when Michigan fumbled at the 12-yard line with 6.5 minutes left in the second quarter. That ended the drive, that ended the momentum. Ohio State got up by 2 possessions, getting up 28-13, and the game was over. Michigan was not coming back from that. It's unbelievable how one turnover so early in the game can decide the outcome of the rest of the game. Many will disagree with me on that. But when you look at momentum, when you look at the trend of the game, things immediately went downhill for Michigan after that turnover. They lost 62-39 last year. We thought maybe they could get redemption this year, at least be more respectable. It didn't happen. Ohio State proving why they're the number 1 team in the country going in to conference championship weekend. It may not have been like 2013, but this Iron Bowl proved to be yet another classic, an Iron Bowl for the ages, as Auburn took down Alabama 48-45 and ended Alabama's college football playoff chances. It is over. For the first time ever, Alabama will not be in the college football playoff, and that is truly unbelievable, especially when you look at the stats, guys. Auburn, all the credit in the world, a phenomenal game plan from Gus Malzahn, a phenomenal performance from the Tigers, especially from their defense. Despite allowing 45 points, their defense was clutch. But when you look at these stats, Alabama outgained Auburn by 161 yards. They owned the time of possession by over 11 minutes. Anyone looking at these stats would say, how did Alabama lose this game to Auburn? They lost this game to Auburn because the kicking woes continued. They've been that way forever. Nick Saban and the Tide, they've had potent offenses, they've had stingy defenses, but for many years now, they've been unable to figure out their kicking game. That dates all the way back to 2017, if not farther back than that, maybe even all the way back to 2013. Could not figure out a kicking game, and it proved to cost them again as they missed a game-tying field goal with 2 minutes left, had 13 men out on the field on a potential punt or a potential fourth down conversion that had Auburn not converted, Alabama may have been able to get the ball back and win the game. And then, of course, you can't disregard the 2 pick sixes that Mac Jones threw, one going for about 30 yards, another one for 100 yards, throwing a pick 6 in the end zone. Phenomenal interception, Auburn taking it to the house. That's 14 points that Auburn scored solely from their defense. Alabama leaves a few on the board off of missed field goals, and Auburn wins this game by 3 points to finish the season 9-3. Gus Malzahn's off the hot seat. He took care of business against their biggest rival. He ruined Alabama's playoff hopes. And now the question remains, is the dynasty at Alabama over? There was talk about it last year after the Clemson National Championship loss. Is there going to be talk about it this year after Alabama has 2 losses in the regular season, will not be playing for an SEC title, and will not be making the college football playoff for the first time ever? Up north from the plains, way up in Minnesota, I hate to say it, but there's a leak in the boat. And that leak is in the passing defense. Minnesota falling to Wisconsin 38-17, an embarrassing performance from the Golden Gophers. But Wisconsin just repaying the favor, as any good rival would do, as the Golden Gophers went into their house last year and won 37-15, winning that game by 22 points. Wisconsin coming back on the road and winning by 21 points at Minnesota with a Big Ten West title on the line and college game day in town. Minnesota did hold Jonathan Taylor to 76 yards, but defense has got to play a complete game. You shut down the run. They were unable to shut down the pass. Jack Cohn throwing for 280 yards and leading the Badgers to a 21-point victory over their rival, revenge over that loss they had last year, clinching the Big Ten West and setting up a rematch against Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. Wisconsin cannot make the college football playoff, but they can at least play spoiler and at least try to get redemption from that 38-7 beating that they received earlier this season. So a phenomenal win for the Badgers, a phenomenal season for Minnesota, going 10-2 on the year. Their playoff hopes are over, their Big Ten title hopes are over, but credit to PJ Fleck and what he has done in a very short amount of time with this program. They might just want to plug up that leak in their boat if they want to continue rowing it into the postseason. And then finally, the last biggest game we have to discuss. It's one that we didn't have up on our big board. It's one that we didn't even do a game of the week over, and we didn't do it because it didn't hold as many major implications as maybe these other games did, but Bedlam. I mean, one word, plain and simple. Oklahoma State, the Sooners keeping their college football playoff hopes alive by beating the Cowboys 34-16 on the road. And this is an Oklahoma team, guys, that as of late, and as was the case last year before they made the college football playoff, their defense has received a lot of hate. Their defense has received a lot of criticism. Are they good enough to win the Big 12? Are they good enough to compete in potentially the college football playoff with a somewhat poor defense? Well, their defense made a statement this Saturday by beating their rival in the Cowboys 34-16, forcing 2 turnovers, holding Oklahoma State to 2 field goals that were both inside the Sooner 25-yard line, and then, of course, holding Chuba Hubbard to just a little over 100 yards, well below his season average. And those 2 field goals I mentioned are key, because you take away those 6 points and add 14, it's 34-24, and who knows what could have happened then. Who knows what could have happened? It could have been 34-24 midway through the fourth quarter, and crazy things have been known to happen in Bedlam. Crazy things have been known to happen in rivalry weeks. So those field goals were huge for Oklahoma and huge for one of our against the spread picks. So thank you, Oklahoma, for that. But I know the Sooner fans and Sooner Nation are pleased with that defensive performance as the Sooners keep their playoff hopes alive and set up a huge rematch against Baylor in the Big 12 championship. one that has major playoff implications, not just for the Sooners, but also for those Baylor Bears hoping to get revenge after blowing that 28-3 lead over the Sooners earlier this month. So major things happening in Week 14, in rivalry week of college football. Guys, we said chaos ensued, and guess what? The chaos is not even close to being over. It's one of the best times of the year. It's over now. Now we have to look ahead. Now we have to look ahead to Conference Championship weekend. With this wild Week 14, there are major shakeups in the rankings. We're going to release our top 25 tomorrow, so do not miss out on that. Do not miss out on that analysis as we break down every single top 25 team that we have ranked. We have a college football playoff live ranking show coming out on Tuesday. We've got Conference Championship predictions and Game of the Weeks. And then, of course, Saturday, Conference Championship, and Sunday, we will know the Final Four. We will know who makes the college football playoff. It's a huge week of college football ahead, and you don't want to miss any of the analysis and prospective videos coming here at the Gridiron Expert this week. So guys, thank you so much for watching us here on YouTube. Make sure to like this video and check out everything in the description below. You do not want to miss that extra content and offers. And once again, thank you for watching. Please continue to like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you next time on the Gridiron Expert.